Cliff B from Epic Games. This is Alan Willard.
Hey, what's up?
And we're here to show you some Unreal Tournament 2003, show you some of the latest tools that we've developed, and talk a little bit about us, the history of the company, and where everything's going. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a demonstration of the game. Alan, you want to fire up a level? It's a little bright.
710-0831.
They didn't change
That's problematic.
settings. They didn't turn the camera.
Okay, so what you're looking at is this is the follow-up to the original Unreal Tournament. Alan's firing up DM Curse 3 right here, which is the follow-up to the original Curse maps, as you may or may not be familiar with.
Just think he didn't turn.
Some cool rendered texture action right there. Can you shoot it? Yeah. Shoot with the minigun, dude. Some cool Stargate type effects. What you're looking at here is anywhere from 30 to 80,000 triangles in view. We wanted to keep things at a reasonable level. The game will actually run on a TNT2 or a Voodoo. Low detail settings, 15, 20 frames a second. But the bottom line is it'll run, and we're hoping that by having the game run on a wide variety of platforms on the PC, we'll be able to have a lot of people who play it, they see their buddies, and they see how good the game looks on a real computer, and hopefully they'll upgrade along with that. You want to kill pawns, and we'll go through a few of the weapons. Actually, hold on a second. A little bit of background on the game. The game was originally started by Digital Extremes. This is the Canadian company that we worked with on Unreal and Unreal Tournament.
Hey.
Go Canada, eh? And we had a lot of luck working with them. There's a lot of talented guys up there. They're up there in London, Ontario, which is a nice little town, kind of a pain in the ass to get to. And this game actually started as Unreal Championship with the Xbox. You know, Microsoft came along, you had this badass console, and they're like, you know, we want you to make a game, the Unreal franchise for the system. You know, we're working with TE, we're like, all right, you know, TE, this is going to be Unreal Championship. You know, 6 months into it, we're sitting here going, wow, you know, we had Unreal Tournament come out, sold 3 million copies worldwide. You know, we're really stupid here to not make a follow-up to Unreal Tournament. So at that time, development was shifted a little bit so that this could, you know, kind of morph into Unreal Tournament, the follow-up. It was originally Unreal Tournament 2, and then we kind of looked at where we wanted to position the game. And we decided to kind of go with the yearly naming convention. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be seeing you know, a whoring of the franchise where it's like Unreal Tournament 2004, 2005, 2006, like with updated player stats or any of the BS you see in a lot of the sports games and the consoles. I mean, if in the event we do Unreal Tournament 2004, it would have a lot more updates on it. It wouldn't just be a few new weapons. And we wanted to really kind of also angle it much more towards a sporting angle. I mean, if you look at what everybody's doing out here with the CPL, I mean, it's a sport. I mean, I was talking to Angel today, and you know, I was realizing that watching ESPN the other day, I saw that they had like log cutting on the channel.
Yeah, it's a lot of
realizing, you know, wow, you know, if there's an audience for that, there's sure shit an audience for the CPL. So, I mean, and this is also a bit more visually interesting than watching a guy kind of swing an axe and chop down a freaking tree. So, I mean, I'm really excited about where we're going to take this. I mean, we're going with much more of a sporting feel. We were hoping to show you the intro today, but unfortunately that got messed up due to technical difficulties. The intro of the game really has like motion capture characters coming out and doing like the whole WWF style intro, complete with like fireworks and everything. Are you showing cool shit behind my back? You're not listening to a word I'm saying, are you?
We're talking?
Alright, we got a lot of weapons that are returned. You can see the flat cannon here.
Whoa.
This is our flubber technology.
Flubber.
Do an arm mode once so we can see like that's smashed up. Here you go.
Wow.
Alright, go back. So we got a whole bunch of weapons in here. You got your minigun returning, you got your flat cannon returning. It's 30% less spammy this time around. We got a rocket launcher returning. You can only load up 3 rockets, but the rockets actually fire faster. There we go. Plenty of smoke, plenty of explosion. Sniper rifle has been turned into a combination of a lightning gun and a sniper rifle. You got your zoom in here, which is somewhat limited by the overlay on the screen, and you can go for your headshots, and you can actually get like double headshots in this now. Whole piles of new announcer recordings. I don't know if any of you read on the message boards. We now have one of the announcer recordings is a ludicrous kill, which is an extension of the monster kill, which I'm not going to tell you how to get quite yet. The digital extremes has worked to get like 30 plus
Oh, he
characters
follows
in
the
the
game
game. There's
booth.
like
It's one
robots,
after
there's
Monster
aliens,
Kill.
there's these big juggernaut guys. Well, you've probably all seen the Beresford, so you know what I'm talking about. If I see anybody playing that down there, I'm going to kick anybody's ass playing it. We have leaking versions like a Civ here. You got your link gun here. You can actually take this gun and point it and shoot it at a teammate, link up to him. That'll make his shots twice as strong, and then you can link up to the third guy so you guys can really get some good cooperative team play going on. We got your assault rifles, your new default rifle. Instead of the Enforcer, you can fire with your regular bullets. You can fire grenades out. A little bit bouncy, a little bit spammy. You got your shield gun, which is kind of a replacement for the impact hammer. This will actually reflect shots that are shot at you. When you're falling and you hold this down, it'll reduce falling damage, so you can jump from serious heights. The alternate fire is much like the original impact hammer. You walk around holding it down, and it'll kill people really quickly. We got the good old bile rifle returning, which is one of my personal favorites. The goop gun, the snot gun, and the alt fire to that is still particularly useful. So there'll be a lot of fools who will underestimate this gun, and if you know how to use it, you'll be killing them aptly. And my favorite is the shock rifle, which of course is returning with the combo, which everybody loves. I don't know if anybody ever saw that mediocre movie Hard Target, which was John Woo's first directorial effort in the U.S. with Jean-Claude Van Damme. We were working on the first Unreal, and I remember seeing a scene where he actually throws up the gas can in front of a bad guy, and then shoots the gas can explodes, and that's basically where the idea for that came from. But so yes, we are occasionally stealing the occasional idea. We also have the ion cannon satellite, which you'll have to look Phobos to probably show up. Number of maps returning. You see Curse 3, we have Phobos 2, and Facing Worlds Revision 3, which you either love it or hate it, it seems. There's been a lot of debate online about that map.
Who hates Facing Worlds?
If you love Facing Worlds, raise your hand.
Everybody loves Facing Worlds.
If you hate Facing Worlds, raise your hand. Alright, well, okay, so I'm glad we included it. So this weapon's the tag laser.
Thanks.
You notice in certain levels where the skies open up, if you look at the pretty planet up there, Alan.
Hey.
See that satellite? That is a satellite of death. If you played a Command and Conquer type game, you're familiar with a weapon like this. If you want to take a look at it, dude.
Ooh, who's this
Basically, this weapon
at?
that you actually paint the target on the ground, and if you let it kind of hold on a certain area for a couple seconds, death from above will come down and destroy all on your way. The sound needs to be a little bit louder for that. We're also working on getting the Redeemer back, because it wouldn't be UT if you didn't have a Redeemer and you float around the level like,
Hope you're happy, Super D.
Right people's noses. One of the other things we're completely excited about is the integration of karma physics. When you kill a character, there's ragdoll physics now, so they'll actually tumble through the environment realistically. Wait, what are you? You'll just be left with your skeleton after you get hit by that weapon. For some reason, it doesn't destroy the bones. I don't know why. Oh, and that's a good segue. We also have an adrenaline system which has been implemented into the game. You can you walk around the level and you pick up these little pills, which I don't know what kind of morality we're teaching the kids with that one. But if you collect enough of these pills, then you get a buzz or a full adrenaline.
Or a lawsuit.
Right now, Alan did invisible, which is right, left, left. Is that it? Yeah, and then you do like back, forward, that'll do berserk, and berserk will allow you to shoot twice as fast and deal out a lot of damage.
Just tell them it's ginseng.
Forward, it'll make you speed up and run around really fast. There's a whole bunch of different ones you can do like this. So, in addition to making it a lot more like a sport, we're kind of taking a lot more like a fighting game, much like a Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
There's berserk. You fire twice as fast. You kick the left butt. Yeah, if you want to actually pause the game for a second, I want to give them a little bit of history here. Alright, for those of you who aren't familiar with the company, I just want to give you a quick, 60-second history of Epic. Epic was started, we're on our 11th year in business as an independently owned developer. We are not owned by our publisher. Epic is privately owned, which means we decide when the game ships, which explains how we've managed to have good games that come out and are relatively bug-free. A lot of what happens in the business a lot of the times is publisher forces a game to come out before it's ready. Oh, we can patch it later. We have to meet this fiscal quarter to satisfy our stockholders, and we're really we really believe in making the best game possible and shipping it as close to bug-free as possible. I've been in the business now for 10 years, since I was 17 years old. I was 17 and I was living at my mom's house in California, and I grabbed a copy of Visual Basic and I made my own little goofy Windows adventures. Sent them to Tim Sweeney at Epic. He was in Maryland at the time. Got a call from, not from Tim, but from one Mark Rain. And if you've met Mark Rain, he's quite the character. Almost scared me off when I was this, little pimply-faced 17-year-old kid. And needless to say, started working with Epic, was put in contact with a Dutch programmer named Arjan Russi. We did the Jazz Jackrabbit game, which some of you may or may not remember. It did very well. That game helped me move out of my mom's house and get my first car and apartment. And then we did a follow-up to Jazz, and then we did the first Unreal, which start to finish was about 4 years long. Wound up spending about a year in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, off and on. Woo, yeah, Canada, yeah. Gotta love those fries with gravy. And donut shops everywhere. What's up with that? And Unreal wound up shipping, did pretty well, about over 1 million copies. The netcode was absolute shit when the game shipped, and we're very apologetic for that. Unreal Tournament started off as an add-on pack for the original Unreal. The quote was it was called Bot Pack, and if you actually look in the original UT system directory, there's files called Bot Pack. And that was going to be an extension of the whole bot thing that Steve Polge had invented. Steve Polge, as you know, is the guy who invented the Reaper bot for the original Quake, which was the first AI-controlled deathmatch opponent. And he's still employed at Epic and is still kicking a bunch of butt. He's doing a lot of good work with the AI in this game. And Unreal Tournament came out and sold pretty well, and we did Unreal Tournament PlayStation 2, which was not fun at all. And it was like, shipping the same game once is hard enough, shipping it twice on a platform that has like a quarter of the memory, and it's just agonizing. But, that came out, that did okay, and Unreal Championship's coming out. We got Unreal Tournament 2003, as well as Unreal 2 The Awakening, which is the single-player follow-up to the original Unreal. Are you confused yet? I am, because we've got a hell of a lot of games. And as far as Alan getting into the business, Alan actually ran into Shane, who's our art director at the airport, when Shane was going back and forth to Canada during the original Unreal. Hey, Canada again. And
Fuck that.
It all applies to Canada.
basically, Alan had sent some samples of his levels, because he was involved in the mod community, and we liked what we saw. We hired Alan. Alan made some of the more classic maps from the original Unreal Tournament, such as Leandry, which is one of the best one-on-one maps in my opinion to this day. And Alan's hopefully very, very happily employed still at Epic, and is expecting a baby daughter soon. But that's another story.
Thank you very much.
All right, so what? Let's get back to the game.
Got him excited.
We got some higher resolution textures this time around. We're using DXT compression on many of them. Detailed textures are being implemented. Everything's starting to look really tight. Multiple game types in the game where you have your typical vanilla deathmatch, run around like an idiot and kill everything that moves game type. We got your team deathmatch, of course, whereas one team runs around like idiots and tries to kill the other bunch of idiots. You got your capture the flag, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. You want to fire up facing worlds, actually, so we can give them a little bit of facing that. It's not quite as sniper-related this time around, because if somebody hits you, you actually see the lightning gun trail from where they were from, so you can kind of pinpoint where they were. This map, as you know, was created by Cedric Inox Fiorentino, the French level designer, who, after about 8 years, has finally been able to be immigrated into the States, which has just been a total nightmare. But he's here and he's happy. One of the environmental themes we're going with is kind of a Egyptian theme. Oh, and when you toss your translocator out, you can actually switch to a camera view of it if you want to toss it across the level. Then you can look around and watch and pinpoint where you're going to land.
Nice. Whoa.
Which, in addition to being very useful, is very fun. Whoops, that's a book. You didn't take a picture of that, did you?
It allows you to check and see if you're going to actually land on the ground.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the programmers to implement a mutator where you can leave the translocator somewhere and then actually have it explode, so you can sit there with like a little pipe bomb with a camera and take a look at the room a little bit and go to like R mode 1 so you can see how many triangles in here. It's a pretty detailed environment.
There's at least 4.
I'll get into how a lot of this was built in a little bit. Alan will be firing up the editor. So the next game type that we have is double domination. You remember domination shipped with the original Unreal Tournament. It was there were 3 points arbitrarily placed around the map, and it was just a total clusterfuck of people running around, and it wasn't very strategic, and I didn't like it much. And Turns out you didn't like it either because there's about 6 people playing it online right now. So the game type's been completely reworked. There's just 2 domination points, and the idea is for your team to hold the domination points for 10 seconds while you're playing it. And that actually creates kind of a great tug of war because no one person can really win the game at that point. If you stand on one point and you manage to hold it, you better hope your teammates are going and getting the other points because otherwise you're going to lose. Another cool Egyptian theme map. This one's done by Lee Perry, formerly of Ion Storm. He worked on Necronox. Oh, the game type's screwed up right now. We also have a whole pile of mutators that are going to be shipping with the game. That was one of the things from the original Emerald tournament that proved to be really popular, was having kind of a whole bunch of variety. Once you got tired of one game type, you kind of mix it up. So it's like, it's like that commercial where they're talking about, oh, I'm pet dander and I'm allergic to this and this and this. It's like your favorite UT is like, I like low grab, instant-jib, big head, mutator with 6 guns on CTF, and have it your way, right? Like Burger King. Yeah.
Unreal forever.
Exactly. So domination's a lot more fun, a lot more strategic. The other game type that's one of the more controversial ones that we've added is one called Bombing Run.
Frag wall.
Bombing Run, again, is taking the game much more in an angle of a sport. I originally wanted to call this one Death Ball, but I'm on this. Basically, there's a ball in the middle of the map, and it's your job to go pick this ball and either carry it through the enemy's hoop or throw it through the enemy's hoop. If you throw it through the enemy's hoop, you only get 3 points because that's not as cool. If you actually jump through the hoop, you get 7 points. Look down.
Whoa!
Don't fall. Half the audience vomiting on the guy in front of them. So go ahead and grab the ball.
Oops. Someone filming the map. Wow.
You gotta fire up the game type manually. And so this actually provides a lot of strategy. Once you actually pick up the ball, you can't shoot. You have a ball launcher in front of you, and you then want to run to the enemy base and put it through the hoop. It actually reminds me of that Quake 2 mod, Catch the Chicken, where you're running around the chicken in front of you and trying to
Fucking T-mod.
you can squeeze and choke the chicken and never. Not that any of you on here would know, but. So here's the ball. Alan's going to pick it up. And so you can actually throw the ball right in front of you, toss it to teammates. You can target teammates using the yellow fire, toss it to them.
But I have no other weapons. I cannot defend myself. The only thing I can do is toss the ball, and then I can switch.
It's actually a satellite topography picture that he put under there. So we're hoping a lot of plays will develop here, much like any other sport where you're tossing the ball back and forth. And once you have the ball, your health regenerates, so you're really good defensively, but offensively you're kind of screwed. We originally were looking at including the game type Assault when we were making the game, but we really felt that Assault had its own merit. Like eventually, we'd love to see maybe an entirely different game that's focused around attack and defend, or it didn't really lend itself much to this voice is distracting the hell out of me. Can you pause it for a second? All right. Assault was one of those game types we felt was much more inclined towards single player. It was really much more of a attack defend type scenario. So when you play Unreal 2 when it comes out, you're going to see a lot more single player that's futuristic versions of storming and defending the beach, which will hopefully turn out pretty well. And before we get into the editor, I just want to make a couple comments about where things are going with this. Actually, if you could show up regular GM with some of the new movement types.
There you go.
I remember when Quake 3 came out, and players, in a lot of games, they bunny hop, they jump around like idiots, and it doesn't look realistic. Players are flying all over the place, and I remember Idris talking back in the day about reducing that. And, I kept asking myself, is this something we want to pursue? Do we really feel this is a good direction? Digital Extreme's working on the game. The game, since it originally was for the Xbox, the idea was to include a double jump. So as Alan's demonstrating, you jump in the air, and at the apex of your jump, hit jump again, you can get kind of a little bit of extra distance. Well, this idea has been extended, whereas you can dodge and then actually jump out of the dodge. So players are moving around the map kind of doing this now. In addition to that, I don't know if Alan will be able to do the wall jump. If you jump up on a wall and then dodge off of it, you can jump off the wall. And you'll find that with the way that the terrain in some of the maps, we have some tribe-style terrain in a lot of the environments. You can really zip around the map in ways you never deemed imaginable, and just get to areas that Well, basically, it's been a testing nightmare because of this new movement paradigm. You can get anywhere on the map, and we've really had to be careful with where you can get for visibility and speed purposes. But I mean, as far as where things are going, I mean, if in the event we do Unreal Tournament 2004, I expect this trend to continue to. I mean, let's not try and pretend like this game's realistic. Players are running around at 30 miles an hour. They're taking 3 rockets to the head. They're jumping, 6 feet in the air. They're in the middle of hell. I mean, let's be realistic. The game's not about realism. It's about wacky fun and jumping around like an idiot. So, we need to play to our strengths, especially when you look at where we're placing the product in the grand scheme of things. I mean, if I see another SWAT-type game come out, I mean, there's been like 8 million of them. So
Yeah.
I think the market's ripe for another wacky game like this that has a lot of variety and a lot of crazy weapons. And we're hoping it'll do pretty well. And if anybody out there has actually, played it, and has any input and wants to email me, I mean, feel free. I can't promise I would reply to everyone, but it's just cliff@epicgames.com. Just give some feedback, what you like, what you don't like. And, we promise we listen to all that. So now would be a good time to go into the editor. Just like when the original Unreal Tournament shipped, we're including the very same tools we used to build the game. We found much as it and Valve have found that this is just a great way to foster new talent, as well as just create a great community. I mean, if you can keep people playing your game for a couple of years after it comes out, and instead of buying somebody else's game, then you're that much further ahead of the ball. But something to note is that Alan came from the community, Steve Polge, who did the Reaperbot, came from the community. We hired Joe Wilcox, aka Dr. Sid, who did a lot of the client-side hit protection in the original Unreal Tournament. Who else came from the community? There's a couple other guys. Shane came from the community. Shane used to make Quake maps. Warren Marshall, who wrote the editor and designs the levels, came from the community. Damn near about half the guys who currently work at Epic came from the community. And people would come up to me and they ask me, I love games, I love the business. How do I actually get in? And there's 2 ways. There's the first way of going to school and getting your degree and working as a slave at EA as a tester for 6 years. Or there's getting a tool like this, busting some ass, making yourself well known on the internet, and getting noticed by Epic and whoever. And when the game ships, I anticipate opening up the Cliffy B's owner's page again and posting the best maps that I think are the creeps of crop. So Alan's getting his editor configured. You gotta bear with us a little bit here. I think he's working at 400 by 300 resolution on one monitor. We're used to working at 2048. And up on 2 monitors. The editor actually works really well with a multiple monitor setup. One of the guys actually has 3 monitors. I think we're eventually going to line up with a 360 view. You can imagine the office is getting a little bit warm. Lightning's always good. So, okay, the first thing you have to really understand when you're firing up a new editor is the new way of thinking that we're going about here. We sat back and said, okay, here it is. We have this new technology. We're going from literally 100 times increase in detail. The original Unreal Tournament, it's like, oh, you have 200 triangles, go. It's like, okay, here's my, overcolored boxes and cubes, and aren't these cool? And the level designer was responsible for every vertex in the level. He was responsible for every single piece, every part. Now we're at the point where we have just thousands and thousands of triangles, and trying to do all that yourself as one person, it's a seemingly insurmountable task. It's damn near impossible. And, you look back and we figured, okay, how did we build games in the past? When we did you do Jazz Jackrabbit, right? Well, what would happen was an artist would sit down and a tile set would get created. You'd have all like walkways and doors and catwalks and all these pieces of architecture. And what we're doing with this in the new generation of technology is having artists and designers working very closely together to create some modular pieces of architecture. Type static like we went over that. And so we're very much approaching this with kind of a Lego approach. So when you get the game from day one, you're having pieces of architecture that you can work with. You don't necessarily have to be a Max or a Maya group. If you want to build these pieces, you can take a program like Max or Maya, build texture map your own chunks of architecture, import them, assemble environments, and be good to go. But you don't necessarily have to do that. Now Alan's going through. You can see there's a support piece here. Here's a cool gear. There's wall pieces. There's piles of junk actually in that version. There's cool curved wall pieces, nice supports. And the good thing about these pieces is once you place one in a level, it only stores it once in memory. So you can use one piece 8,000 times throughout your level. Each piece is vertex lit. and it will only take up one slot memory. So it's really good in that respect for memory. It's also nice because you can scale these pieces arbitrarily on 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. So if you have something that doesn't quite fit, you can stretch it a little bit or squish it down a little bit. I guess if you want to maybe show off that feature now.
Okay, so there's the brush I just added. I'll go ahead and scale it down by half. I can have it all moving around.
Rotate it.
Stretch it out.
It's really required kind of a shifting gears in the way you think. It's really a different level design paradigm. And if you like what you saw earlier, then it apparently it worked. So I think the results turned out to be pretty cool.
Now, even though I've created a unique scale point, it still takes the same amount of memory as.
Epic recently hired James Golding, who's a programmer at Math Engine in the UK, and he's basically on site responsible for all sorts of physics type things. And we're looking at getting a vehicle in with the game to ship with, so that in addition to playing with the mod community, can have access to getting all this working. On his spare time, we're going to press K here with these guys. On James' spare time, he programmed in some really cool water effects that are in here. Which, the effect that you saw in Curse, where it was like the render detector that was up in the ceiling that was the portals showing different parts of the level, that was actually a fluid surface info, which is just one big tessellated sheet of triangles, which then if you shoot it, it will actually deform. And then Alan actually applied a render detector of that, of cameras that are elsewhere in the level, with shaders of shininess, and it's amazing the whole thing works. But it turned out to be pretty cool. It's a little dark there. So what you're winding up with here is a huge sheet of triangles that can actually be deformed in real time.
Not a good texture looking at that. So you can watch, there's a test ripple that you can turn on to see how your water's going to react.
And as players move through that and shoot it, the water will actually ripple with them. And this leads to interesting strategic gameplay situations where you walk in the room and you see a ripple of water and you realize that somebody actually was just here a few minutes ago. And you follow them through the next room and you kill them in the most disgusting manner possible.
And it gives us a nice pretty thing to put on top of a water volume, which was defined slightly different way.
These are actually now in the latest version. You can put these so that they're on any axis. So we're planning on having secrets that are on a wall where a guy walks through the wall and it turns out it's a magical mystical wall, and the wall pulses like the Stargate effect. Oh, it's essentially in here? Mm-hmm. I'll fire it up.
I have a tendency to make odd little test maps that have like 1 or 2 effects in it. This is a little thing I put together to show some of the other designers how to do render detection using Matinee on a fluid surface with a specular map.
Matinee is our camera system. We'll get into it a little bit.
So that little particle effect moving around is actually the camera looking at this light, which is on the other side of this wall. Which I can pass through. And then you see this is the output of the camera that's moving around in the other room.
Okay, now they're gonna vomit.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
So he has a Matinee camera path moving around, which is viewing.
And not only is the camera path viewing the lamp, but if I shoot the lamp, it's hooked up to Karma. So now when I go in here, the camera adjusts the output to be watching the lamp no matter where the lamp moves.
Woo!
And then I can shoot the water. So yeah, you can make people nauseous so easy.
Wow. So in our experiments with this, we found you can layer things to come up with some pretty interesting effects. So we're kind of eager to see what everybody comes up with out there. One of the things, as we get into showing off Karma in a little bit, is Karma is very much frame rate dependent. So where something happens on somebody's machine that's running slowly as opposed to somebody's machine that's running fast, it may not necessarily replicate properly in networking. And by we've got this slaughterhouse map that Alan's been working on, and we've integrated some of those light fixtures and like hanging slabs of meat and everything. And we have to be very careful with it so that the Karma that's in the levels doesn't affect gameplay. So if people are shooting it, you're not going to.
Basically, I had to make the meat so heavy that the amount that it could move, while you'd be able to see it, wouldn't affect gameplay too much. So the meat itself moves very little. The lamps, what? the lamps move quite a bit. This was my test map for Slaughterhouse to see how effective that would be.
I still think this map should be called Mad Cow.
I still think you're on track.
You gotta put the flies around the meat. Yummy. Go show them the billboards.
So all of this meat is Karma objects. I can run through, shoot them, move them around.
One of the beauties of this franchise, that was done using a shader effect.
Yeah, it's just both eyes in the same textures being filled to rotate around the center.
Show the other one. The Unreal franchise has always kind of been just kind of a mishmash of whatever the hell we think is cool. Hey, it'd be cool to do a map in a slaughterhouse, so let's do it. We don't have to adhere to some sort of 80-page style guide.
So we try to be as disturbing as we can. We succeed.
Well, and the thing about the franchise is we never really, we never take ourselves too seriously.
All 55%, huh?
You have a franchise where the game's yelling out headshot, and we got a whole bunch of like those crazy new announcer voices that I had mentioned. It's another fluid surface info in there with the water. Actually, we didn't get to show them a lot of the cool maps, so if there are a couple other more of them.
So you're saying the Karma that you're seeing movement in
Hey, it's not
on your...
Q&A time yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, seriously, if we could keep questions to the end.
Okay.
Well, trust me, at the rate we're going to load plenty of time for Q&A. It's a flag base. All the CTF maps in the game are symmetrical this time. I mean, basically, after UT, when we had a few asymmetrical maps and got so much shit for it, we decided we were just going to make them all symmetrical.
I'm sorry about Corrit, okay? Yes, I know there's a flak cannon where the rocket launcher is on the other side.
What?
I got more shit for that than...
That wasn't a demo.
What up, Dallas? That'd be a good segue to...
Any difference? Oh, small.
Alright, to make really organic landscape, we needed a new tool. I'll show this off in the editor after this is done. But
One
what
of
we
the
added
assets
was,
shipping in the demo, FYI.
yeah, what we did was we added a really high polygon, height map based terrain system, which is what I'm running on now. All the white lines are just terrain. The green are static meshes. The fuzzy ones here, those are what we call decal layers. Each terrain layer is a texture that you're painting on, basically.
Shadow of the tree there.
We don't have to use that for texture layering on the terrain, though. What we can use it for is the randomized placement of other static meshes. So we can have things like small grass meshes, like these, scattered throughout the terrain as easy as just painting on it. In the editor, you just select your decal layer, paint all over the terrain. They appear and move around until you stop, and you can do things like either have them attached to the terrain so when you move it up or down, they actually pivot to rotate with the terrain, or you can have them standing straight up. You can randomize their rotation, their scale, their density, all really easily. We've also added, for the first time in Unreal Engine history, a real particle system.
Force effective, shoot it.
And you can push it around.
Poor fireflies.
As you can see, it's not only affected by the force of the rocket going through it, it's also affected by the explosion nearby. We'll be doing a lot more of this in the upcoming tweaking. But it makes for really nice particles can be used for sprites, which are what these are, just a little texture that floats around based on the physics properties you give it. Sparks, which are lines that get drawn so you can get a nice spray out for something. Beams, which is how the lightning gun is done, and a lot of the lightning and electrical effects that you see in other levels. And you can also emit meshes, so you can pick a static mesh and have it be emitted by a particle system. So say you've got keys or cubes of wood or whatever, set it up, tell it what mesh to use, it'll spray them out. They can have collision with the world, they can have collision with the player. The one thing the particles cannot do, however, are affect the player. They're purely grappling. So if I wanted to have a particle burn the player, I'd have to find another way to do it. The particle itself can't hurt it. That's set in mind so that we can have very fast particles that we don't have to worry about for networking. Basically, every PC knows that the particle emitter is there, and it's all client-side from there. So we have to be careful not to make sure that it doesn't do things like include the player's view of something. Otherwise, you would one client might see it and the other clients wouldn't. So that's something to keep in mind.
So maybe go to the editor, show.
So,
Oh yeah, show the light.
this is an example of complex beam effect system. The beam gets spawned randomly, and at its endpoint it's told whatever emitter I hit, it should spawn too. So the emitter spawns, hits the endpoints, and then another emitter gets triggered from there and does the sparks on the pieces.
And then when you score,
Things like that can happen.
din.
I apologize for my colleague. This took me, each side took about an hour of setting up particles. So if you're willing to put a little time into it, you can get very nice stuff out.
As you all know, we license the engine technology. There's a number of people out there who are using the engine right now to make some pretty cool games. There's a Harry Potter title that's coming out for the alongside the Liberty. There's the Rogue Spear Rainbow Six Splinter Cell game, which was shown at E3, looks really hot. There's another Tom Clancy one.
Raven Shield. Raven Shield.
Raven Shield's the one, yeah. There's
Yeah,
Deus Ex 2, alright, come on, let's start gaming them. 13, the cell shaded game by Ubisoft. There's what's that one? That German one. Y Project.
Y Project.
Which is looking pretty solid. Yeah, and the engine's proven to be pretty popular.
Super Monkey Ball 2.
Yeah.
Licensing the engine is one of the things that's helped us stay independent, so that we can tell the publisher when the game ships instead of the opposite.
Alright, so this is one of the maps you just saw, one of the ones that will be in the demo. We have easy key bindings for turning on and off things like BSP, talking about in and out, static meshes, turn on and off the fog, turn the sky off. So if you only want to look at one thing, or if you're only working on one particular thing.
Let me chime in real quick. One of the things that, those of you who are looking to build levels, those of you who work with developers or contractors or mod creators, one of the biggest challenges you're going to find right now, moving forward to such high polygon scenes, is the issue of pipeline. We have the old school UT-BSP geometry that you can still work with, and then what we do is often a level is kind of fleshed out with that, and then supplemented with the modular system of architecture in the inside. You can use an assembly line approach where one designer fleshes out the level that way, and then an artist comes in, and then maybe somebody comes in and lights it. or you can have somebody who, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have people who are so uber talented that they can do it all. You know, have somebody who builds the shell and then builds it, you know, the pieces inside of it, and makes it look nice. It's really moving forward. You know, figuring out what that pipeline is going to be is something everybody has to answer for themselves.
So now that he's gone off that, we decided we need to do a overtime trade very quickly. So what we did was we had the ability to see it in pretty much any view and paint texture layers in. So if I want to have more of these little twigs, I can paint them right in. I can do things like paint them with noise, so I get spots. Go ahead and smooth them out to get blending.
Chip the Xbox. And when you see those bodies falling with ragdoll, even though there's some magic there. Maybe show how you linked up the lamps and stuff.
Doesn't work. Where you shoot the guys, they stand there. It was 2 builds ago.
One build ago. They're not gonna move. Told you.
Adrenaline.
Damn it. Oh, hey, there's one. Okay, that's it.
So this is just a first pass of the vehicle that will be.
It's obviously not skipped yet.
This is using the exact same code that is used to do the ragdolls, to do the swinging meat. Notice it has suspension. The way it's driven is not say I have a top velocity, go to that speed over this period of time. It actually works based on friction. The tires have a certain amount of friction with the ground. As they spin forward, it imparts a certain amount of momentum forwards. And the thing actually has an engine to determine how fast it can go.
We actually had a badass GDC demo we should have brought here where you could actually attach a ragdoll character to the back of it and then drag the kayak around the terrain. And it was kind of upsetting, to be honest. Needless to say, you're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more of this stuff in our game and our licensees games coming soon. Is there anything else you want to? Oh, okay. We're going to conclude the presentation with a little bit of ragdoll physics. Now his soul's being like taken and returned so he can return to action. Good. It's funny because I go back and I play the original UT and like, you know, I missed a double jump, I missed all the new moves, jumping off walls, and then when I watch the characters die and they fall over in the stiff pose and they're hanging off ledges and everything, it just looks so bad. And this is just pretty harsh. And once you kill somebody like that, you keep shooting the body and watch it kind of ragdoll across. It's a lot of fun. Where are you going? Oh, to the hill.
Yeah, there's no more having steps that the guy hangs off of by 1 pixel. When we were first getting in, they actually had a huge slalom that 5 ragdolls would start at the top, they'd get up so much velocity by the bottom that it would clear the ravine, and you would pick them out of the air and knock them out.
There are also we had it set up where there's a big trench and there was a couple of large balls and bodies in their T-pose, and we'd drag the vehicle and bowl into the ball, the ball would then hit the vehicles, which would knock down pins, and it was fun.
Finish up the collision generator.
Okay.
One of the
last
things
thing.